Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very, very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
I'm Ron Douglas. I own Mentoring Giants, and I'm calling from Colorado.
Wow, what part? If you don't mind, what part of Colorado? I used to live in Loveland.
Oh yeah. You're up on northern side of Front Range, but yeah, I live. We own a little ranch just south of a little ways south of Aspenville area.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. When I first got there, real quick, when I first got there, I was thinking of John Denver, Annie's song, and how, the mountains were so beautiful out there. And so I'm glad that you chose Colorado, the part that you're in. So moving on, can you go ahead and tell me about your past leading up into your present?
Um. Well, I'm not sure how far you want me to go back, but
However far you want, the extended version, to get
okay.
everybody to get eye open.
Well, I'm a son of an I'm an army brat, son of a military, full time military. Uh, my dad was 22 years in the army. I had a hard time getting along with people. Got kicked out in 10th grade. Uh, Never went back to school. Um, I broke my back in a car accident at 18 and was paralyzed from the waist down. Um, and Luckily, I was able to make a full recovery from that, and then I joined the prison system as a guard in Texas, and I worked in Texas prison system. I became a head of the. I became a member of the riot team at 20. I was head of the riot team at 21, and I was working death row by 22, 23 ish. I met my first entrepreneur when I was about 23. Um, and I started my own business when I was 24. I quit the prison system, started my own business at 24, and made my first million by 26. So that's a little bit of background on me, and that's how I started. Since then, I've owned over 40 companies. I've had a show on Discovery Channel. I've done just a little bit about just just about a little bit of everything. I've had just about every business you can imagine: internet businesses, blue collar businesses, white collar businesses, and I got into an addiction of buying undervalued companies and building them up and flipping them. And so that was a lot of fun. Did that for a while, and now I'm kind of retired on a little ranch down here in southern Colorado, and I got bored a little bit, so I decided to help people with their their businesses as a mentor.
Wow. So we're going to go all the way back to your 10th grade. What was you actually, if you can remember, what was running through your mind that made you say, hey, I just don't want to go to school no more?
I was in I went to high school in Frankfurt, Germany, Frankfurt American High School,
Oh,
and
wow. That had to be tough. I know it was.
yeah. So we were surrounded. I was surrounded by other military guys, military kids, other army brats, and I don't know. I remember I was sitting there one time, and my history teacher was so flippin' boring, and he was telling us about World War II, and I'm looking out the window, going, "It's all right there. Why am I listening to you? I could go out there and see it myself." And I just got up. I just told him I'm going to the bathroom. I got up one day and I skipped school, and then I skipped school the next day and the next day and the next day. Then I got in a couple of fights, got in trouble, and so yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. But I remember the first time I realized school wasn't for me was when I was listening to that boring freaking history teacher.
Guess what happened though, Ron? You created history. You created your own history. And
That's right.
so, yeah, do you think the circumstances with you dropping out of school had a great vast majority amount of greatness, seeing as though you became a millionaire. Because had you graduated, maybe you wouldn't have went that route. You would have went just the regular 9 to 5 job route versus working independently, creating businesses from that has been severely damaged and built, like not creating them but getting them, buying them, and building them from the ground up. Do you think that the path you took was a better path than just you graduating high school?
Yes and no. I would say yes, obviously, because I mean, I wouldn't change anything right now at this point. Could you graduate high school and still done what I've done? Yes. You could have gone to college as well. My first time on college campus, I was actually there to speak. I mean, they invited me there to speak. So, I mean, I school just wasn't for me, and neither was the military life, to be honest with you. I mean, that was part of the problem was I just didn't get along with anybody because I didn't know why at the time. Obviously, I was too young to understand why, but I didn't see things the way everybody else saw things, and I just, everybody was like, step in line, do your stuff, join the military, retire after 20 years. I'm like, screw that, you don't own me, and so I just had this different attitude, and I just, man, everybody else, I'm friends with a lot of people on LinkedIn that I went to high school with, and they all followed their parents. They all joined the military. They're all retired now. They all retired military now, and they followed their parent. Most of them followed their parents. And I just was not that way. I just could not do it. But what's funny is I almost did. I mean, when I broke my back, I had just signed up for the military because I didn't know anything else. I just didn't know what else to do. And I had joined the military. I was going to be underwater demolitions was my MOS, and I was supposed to report to basic on Monday, but the Friday before that, I had gotten that car accident, broke my back, which was probably a huge blessing in disguise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It had to be a blessing, But guess what? You recovered fully. Tell me about how long it took you to recover, and what did they tell you when you found out that you're back and you were paralyzed from the waist down?
Yeah, when I woke up, I had actually been asleep for, I don't know, it was like 2 days, man. I was out for a couple of days, and when I woke up, and they started poking my feet, and I didn't feel anything, man. I was just like, oh boy. And they were talking about being wheelchair bound and all this stuff, and they were talking about how I might be wheelchair bound for the rest of my life. And I started looking down that road going, this sucks, and I just didn't know what to do. And but I tell you what, what's interesting is you spend a lot of time in your own head when you're in that hospital 24/7 by yourself. And I don't know, I had made up my mind that screw this, I'm not doing this, uh, and so I would, they would, the nurses would catch me 2, 3 o'clock in the morning down in the physical therapy room, trying to, doing my physical therapy, trying to walk. And I'd be there all night long. And some
Because
nurses were cool about it and they'd ignore it and just let me go do my thing. Some of them would tell me to go back to my room, and I just didn't quit. Luckily, what happened is the swelling had gone down after a little while, and my vertebrae that were the vertebrae that were crushed, believe it or not, the pieces slowly kind of came back together and started to fuse themselves. So I never had to have surgery. They kept me upside down for a while so that I would take the pressure off my vertebrae and let those broken pieces fuse together. And and once I started feeling tingling feelings in my legs again, man, I was excited, but it was also a nightmare because I don't know. I'm sure people have sat on their feet and let their feet fall asleep, and when you try to get up, the tingling, the pain, that's what I felt for like 6 months. I felt that
wow,
from the waist down for like 6 months. It was terrible, man. It was miserable. I thought I was just gonna have to get used to it. This is gonna be my rest of my life. I was going to do this, but eventually it went away, and Then I made a full recovery, and then I went the opposite way. Then I was working out all the time, and I was huge. I was bench pressing like 400 pounds, and
Whoa.
yeah, I was a big boy. And then I joined. I thought I'm going to join the prison system, so that's what I did. I joined the prison system as a guard, and and then of course, young and bulletproof. I wanted to be tough. I wanted to show how tough I was, so I joined the riot team, and then I became head of the riot team. Then I started doing training. I started teaching people hand to hand and on the riot team, and then I got transferred to Huntsville and worked death row.
Wow, that is amazing, man. So tell me more about the riot system. And God bless you, by the way. God bless the fact that your vertebrae, I guess that's the bony piece in your lower back,
Yeah,
fused
the
together.
spine.
I was
Yeah,
thinking that how that's a miracle how it fused together. That is
yeah.
amazing. So I God bless you. And so now you're working in the prison system. Tell me about that and tell me about the riot system. How many riots were there? And what did you do that you one instance you remember that you did to help save somebody or give somebody some type of advice?
Um, Probably the first time that I actually saved somebody was it was an actual another guard. He had gotten himself into a situation where there was probably three. I think there was three inmates that were beating him down pretty good, and I jumped in and helped him get out of that situation. So that was probably my first time doing something like that. He had actually taken a tumble down the stairs. He ended up breaking his broke he broke something. I can't remember his ankle, his leg, something like that. And so he was down on the ground and couldn't get up anyway. And they were just like kicking the crap out of him. And so I jumped in the
Wow.
middle of that and helped him. But that was probably the first time. But as far as riots go, there wasn't as many as most people think there would be. But there was a lot of small. They're not called riots, but like cell raids where people refuse to get out of their cell or whatever like that. So we had to rush the cell and pull them out. And I was they had me as the first guy for a while. I was the guy with the shield, and I did that for a while. And then I was the second guy, which was the guy that grabs the person and puts them down. I did that for a while. I've been in a few riots. The riots were interesting. I helped with a couple of.
Did you ever have somebody put feces on a wall or do something
Oh
crazy?
yeah, oh yeah, but I didn't touch it. I mean, yeah, I mean, you see people do that. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. When we were in a riot, I mean, probably the biggest thing on a riot is dealing with the tear gas, because we throw tear gas in the hall, and then we got to go in there, so we have to be used to it. So once a week, we would tear gas ourselves, and sit in a room with tear gas so that we could get used to it. That
So
was
you
miserable.
basically could say you were back in the military, Ron. I mean, you were
Pretty
in the
much,
military.
pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah, it sucked. It sucked. And then we got probably one of the bigger riots that I was in. That was real eye opening. It really kind of surreal. When it's dark outside, but there's glow from the fires. There's flames going. People are burning their mattresses and toilet paper rolls and getting thrown out and on fire, and it's just
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of surreal. There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of tear gas in the air. It's kind of got this weird smell. I mean, it's just everything's burning. Everything, and you're fighting. I mean, everybody's trying to fight, and it's it's interesting. It's an interesting situation, and I was. Like I said, I was head of the riot team, so I was in the middle of the formation, and we were moving down through the main hall and clearing out the main hall. And my job was anybody that broke the line. It was my job to throw them back through. And
So you were like the heart of the formation. You were the
yeah,
heart.
yeah, I was the center of the formation. So yeah, so we had a V formation, and I was in the center, and we'd step. step, step, and then we moved forward. And anybody that broke through the line, it was my job to pretty much pick them up, throw them through back through the line. So I did that for a couple of years, and that was that sucked. I'll be honest, that sucked. I didn't like fighting all that. I mean, we fought all the time, and that got old. I mean, you know, yeah, freaking hard heads, man. Everybody had to, but at the time I was a different person at the time. I mean, I would never think about doing it now, but back then, I had something to prove. I was, 19, 20 years old. 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I thought I was just the toughest guy in the world. And yeah, there's always somebody tougher. There's always somebody stronger. There's always somebody that can hit harder. But yeah, I did that for a couple of years, and then, like I said, then I transitioned to death row, and then that's when that inmate he said that statement to me, and I was just like, I could not get it out of my head. It messed my world up, honestly. It was like, yeah, you're right, man. I'm sitting there driving home. I remember, and I was like, who the heck would voluntarily spend half their life in prison? What an idiot! Who would do that? And I was like, me. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror, going, I'm the idiot. I'm the one doing it. And I couldn't get it out of my head, so I finally quit.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
You don't mind. So you sat up there and you did. How long was you doing your work for when you were in the prison system? And what do you want to see change? What do you think, based on how long you've been in the prison system, which you will tell me in a minute, what needs to change about the prison system all over the United States?
Phew, 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 phew. That's a good question. Um, Now, in all fairness, it's been 20 some years since I've been in the prison system. So I don't know what's changed since then because I never looked back, to be honest with you. I don't I don't associate with those people. I don't have any friends from that era. I I left that prison and never looked back. But back from when I was there, I think that probably I would I would do less exercise and more schooling. Um, I'm tired of these freaking guys getting in there working out all day just so that they can pummel on officers or pummel on each other because they're sitting there working out all day. I mean, they need to be working this instead of working the muscles. And so I would say get out of the freaking yard and make them go to school, make them all become more educated. Um, that would probably be my number one change. I'm sorry, what was the other question? I didn't catch. I don't remember the
How
other
long
question.
were you in the prison system as an employee?
Just over 4 years, almost five. Yeah,
And
from 19 to 20. Actually, 5 years. Yeah, 19 to 25, 24.
two more questions about the prison system. Did you see any lethal injection go wrong? And did you have anybody that sat up there and didn't even forgive anybody for what they did and did not take ownership before they passed away, expired?
Yes, one inmate did not. Only one. Most of them were very, very apologetic, very remorseful. Um, I never saw an injection go wrong. They take that pretty serious. Um, but only one inmate that he was just like, it's about time kind of attitude. It's like, let's get this over with. See y'all, kind of attitude. But most of them, or actually all of them, other than him, was very, very remorseful. And yeah, it was a weird, weird place to be. Sitting there watching somebody take their last breath, and watching that interaction between them and the families that they victimized, and it was a weird position because I knew the inmate, but I didn't know the victims. And because I was with the inmate every day, and so I kind of knew them, and it was to see it all go down the way it did. It's just weird, but I mean, I knew it was coming. They knew it was coming. So, that day comes, and so yeah, as it gets closer, people start really changing the way they feel and the words that they say, and it's kind of interesting, kind of like being on somebody's deathbed. I mean, some of their last words, some of the advice they give, things that they say. Um, it's kind of interesting, but yeah, it's definitely a different perspective than almost anybody else in the world gets, is to sit there and watch people on death row. That's for sure.
And what did you start doing? Because you were on the Discovery Channel. So tell me more about what you did when you got out of jail, the
When I
jail
got
cell.
out,
Woo! You definitely didn't go to jail.
yeah, when I quit the prison, I had started flipping classic cars. So that's what I did. Is I was buying classic cars in Texas that were rust free, and I was shipping them to the Rust Belt states like Ohio, New York, Minnesota. And when I started, I was shipping like one or two cars, and then I got to like an 18-wheeler load a month. And then when I sold it, I was shipping out like 4 to 6 18-wheeler loads a week. Were leaving the yard. So yeah, it was I had grown that pretty big. I mean, I ended up shipping cars all over the world. I was shipping them to New Zealand, Australia, um, Norway, Denmark, Europe, all through Europe. Yeah, all over the world, pretty much.
And then you started a coaching job, right?
No, I got rid of that business. We moved out of Texas, and then I realized. Well, I started a couple other businesses, built them up, sold them, and then I realized it took me a while. It took me 3 or 4 businesses before I realized it was easier to buy somebody's mismanaged business and build it than it was to start from scratch. So, I'd gone through, like I said, 2, 3 businesses, and when I sold them, I took that money and bought businesses that were in need of repair, so to speak. And then I did that for a while. That was a lot of fun. Then the Discovery Channel hit me up about doing a TV show, and it was called Blue Collar Backers. For anybody that wants to go check it out,
I
it's still
think
out
I
there.
heard about that. What year did it come out?
It's been a while now. It's probably 2016 is when that came out. Yeah, Blue
Yes,
Collar
I,
Back.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you were the host. Were you the
yeah.
host?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. Oh my
So,
God, that is
yeah,
such a coincidence. I meet
yeah.
all people, all walks of life, and it's like it's so funny how I end up seeing people. You just don't know, man. So you had this blue collar thing going on, and then you did it for a while, then you stopped, and now you're retired now, but you have some sort of business where you teach people how to build their businesses. Because how did you
Yeah,
get
yeah. So I had sold all my businesses, and I moved down here and kind of retired in Southern Colorado, but got bored really quick. So um, I decided to help other people with their businesses, and so I started mentoring giants, where I go out and I get on calls with people, and I just help them, and I mentor them through their businesses and help them grow their businesses. Usually, and I tell everybody this all the time, that there isn't anybody out there that does not already have the skills to be a millionaire. That is a given. I mean, if you're flipping burgers, if you're mopping floors, you already have the skills to be a millionaire. And so I can take you. I can build up $1 million company in like 12 months. And so it's really, if you have a business that's doing, and you're making 100,000, 6 figures a year, let's just say at least 100,000, and to take that business to 1 million is, I can do that in like 12 months, no problem. And I help people like that all the time. So that's been a lot of fun, and it's fulfilling, and it's not so challenging where I'm, having a business where I got to deal with it every day. I can still, still do my traveling and still do my family vacations and stuff. So I enjoy doing the coaching. I enjoy doing the mentoring.
Yeah, and where do you see, if you had to give a piece of advice, well said by the way, but if you had to give a piece of advice to an entrepreneur out there that wants to get the same, like to help people like you have, and to have that family life and build and weigh it in where you have 50-50 family life or 60-40 family life. Definitely the family life will be 60% and work life maybe 40 or 50%. What kind of advice would you give them?
Look at it like the 70s, okay? And the in the 70s, the average homeowner paid $36,000 for their house, and they had one car and single income. Uh, they didn't know any better, and that was just the way it was. If you don't know any better, and that's just the way it is, then that's just the way it is. So if you make it in your head, you put it in your head that that's just the way it is. My wife isn't going to work, or my spouse isn't going to work, or I'm only going to work a 60-40 work week, split with family being 60%, and you just make that decision up front, then that's just the way it is. The whole reason you become a business owner is so that you can have decisions over your own life. So go ahead and make that decision now and quit using my business as an excuse for reason why you've got to work 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, my last businesses, they grew more and they grew faster. It almost seemed like the less I worked on them, they grew. Because when you start working on them and you're just literally just beating on them, working on these businesses and you can't stop, you're not working efficiently and you're not making the smartest moves. And then this is another thing I tell people is everybody has the puzzle pieces to make the millionaire status. You just don't have those puzzle pieces in the right place. And that's really where I come in. It's like, listen, man, this is not a priority. This is a priority. Move here, shuffle this, move this, hire somebody to do this, take this position, whatever it is. And it really isn't, it really is a lot easier than you think, to break that millionaire status. I mean, I was doing, I had written a book a long time ago called Six Figures in 6 Months. And every year I had a small following, couple, I don't know, three to 5,000 people that were always following me. And every year on January 1, I would start with $0 and I'd have a new challenge and build a 6 figures in 6 months. And the last 2 or 3 years I did it, I quit doing it because the last 2 or 3 years I was doing it, I was breaking that in like February, February 6th, February 10th, February 15th. And I was like, okay, I knocked this out in 2 months. Are you kidding me? It was so easy at that point. And once you understand it, and once you understand and put those puzzle pieces in the right spot, I mean, building $1 million business in 12 months is not that hard.
I agree. I don't have the money to back it up, but I agree. I'll tell you this. Mark Zuckerberg would love to hear what you said, working less but more efficiently. That would be pretty cool, to do that and still make reasonable to a great income. Now, one last question. I promise you this is the last question. What was the
No
hardest
problem.
part, of working or building businesses? Was it the working part, the working overtime part?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What was the hardest part of building the businesses that you actually bought or you helped people build into $1 million businesses? Was it what you just said earlier, working more proficiently or efficiently, versus overworking yourself and becoming burnt? Which part of that sticks with what I
Well,
said, the narrative?
it's going to surprise most people, but I will tell you that 99% of the time, the bottleneck in your business is you. I hate to tell you that. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but almost every time it's you. You are the reason your business is not growing. And once you see that, and once I show it to you, and once I show you how to think of things differently and look at it from a different perspective, your whole world will change. I promise.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you know, either somebody like for instance, and we all know the type, right? There's the people out there that um, think that their business could not go anywhere unless they were there, so they oversee everything, so they're micromanager of everything, and nobody can buy anything, none of their employees can do anything without them signing on it. Well, then obviously they're the bottleneck, right? And because they're not letting their team run with the projects because they have to oversee everything. So they are the bottleneck. That's an easy way to explain it, but there's a lot of other ways that you can be the bottleneck in your company. And you know, if you if you're good at sales and you're selling your product, but you can't find anybody else to sell like you can, then there's the problem, right? Is because you're not training. It's not because they can't sell, it's because you're not training them properly to be a good salesman. And once you understand that and you put systems in place and you build the right team, your business is going to flourish without you. I mean, the other thing I tell people this all the time is like, if you can't go spend a month in Hawaii and your business be doing just as good or better when you get back, then you don't have a business, you have a job. So think about that. Ask yourself, what would happen if I left for a month and sat on a beach in Hawaii? Would my business still be going, and would everything be doing better or worse when I got back? And if it's worse, then you've got a problem. So you don't have a business, you have a job.
Well said. And how can the people find you, Ron?
You can just go to mentoringgiants.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm usually on LinkedIn. Or you can go to mentoringgiants.com and you can sign up. I will let anybody, anybody can sign up, and I'll give you, 30 minutes. We'll talk about your business, whether we decide to work together or not. I'll give you 30 minutes of business advice on what it would take to, grow your business to the next level.
Thank you so much. Stay on the line. Don't leave yet. Thank
Okay.
you so much, you guys, for joining my show. You take care, be safe, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.